Hi there, everyone. Now, how many of you want to be able to pitch your offers without anything holding you back inside? Yeah. And how many of you want to be able to confidently connect and close your clients so that it feels like you're kind of inviting your best friends round for a party? Yeah, sound good? Now, today I'm with somebody who is going to be our guest speaker at our next live masterclass. Her name is Michele Young, who has mastered the art of turning self-doubt into self-confidence. Sounds awesome. And aligning actions with intentions and accelerating progress towards life-changing goals. And specifically when it comes to communicating and closing clients with authenticity, which is what we're all about at Offer Accelerator Live. My name is Laura Chattington, and I am one of the two co-founders at Offer Accelerator Live. If you're not registered, we're going to be running the masterclass this Thursday. Go to www.offeracceleratorlive.com. And this masterclass is about discovering the secrets to go from low ticket to high ticket without sleazy, salesy selling in any way, and growing your audience of high paying clients effortlessly. Well, I hope that's a good enough introduction, Michele. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
So
I'm
nice.
super excited.
So nice that you're here. Michele was just saying I'm in London. She's in West Coast America and was complaining about the heat to a Londoner, which I'll I'll ignore that because we're desperate for sun here. But anyway, let's talk about what amazing stuff you do. And I guess my first question, which is always my first question, which is, kind of how did you get here? Where I know you've got so many different things going on, but how did you get to this point helping people with their communication and everything else that you do?
It's a great first question to lead into it. It's not lengthy at all. Timeline of life, right? And how we get to where we are currently. So I will give the condensed version because I think that's important. Is I have spent a lot of years of my life in the leadership communication realm, whether it's been for kids and teens, CEOs, and in the corporate world. I have kind of covered all of that. I have taken like the breadth of people that you can interact with, and I've had just a lot of experiences and interactions. And then I got really serious about how do I help people move forward on purpose? Like, how do I help people move from where they are to where they want to be on purpose? Whether it's a day-to-day type of thing, or it's like the big decisions of life or the big moments. And really it came down to, I think, just fundamentally believing that everybody deserves to be confident in their life. Everybody deserves to have a comfort when they walk through their day, that they know how to handle themselves, that they're moving in the right direction. Not perfect, not perfection by any means, but like just that comfort and confidence in who they are and where they're going. And so for me, that's what brought me to this space, was really like focused and serious about helping people have that connection, because I never found it to be something that was like out of reach. But then I realized that other people like didn't have those tools. And coming from a place of wanting to just give and serve and show up in the world is like, wait, I can help you with that. Brought me to this place where, very specifically in business, people have goals. They want to do things in their life. They want to have, success, and they want to be able to like take care of their family in a certain way. And being able to give somebody just the connection to become the best version of themselves so they can show up in the world and have all of those things, to me was huge. So that's why I do what I do now. That's why I spend time in this space helping entrepreneurs, CEOs, corporate workers, like who want to just take that next step, kind of I'm not in the room with them all the time when they're doing it, but I can give them the confidence that they can do it without me.
I love the fact that you quote, I help people from kids to CEOs, and there's probably a bit of gray area between those two, I imagine. But you're right in that everybody needs it, right? Everybody. I love the idea of kind of that, you show up in the world. You show up in the world, and you realize, and I've certainly found it in the work that I've done, is you get to a point, don't you, in life where you realize that actually your communication matters, and how you communicate, and whether you communicate confidently to get people to buy into what you're saying. And I joke about the CEOs and the kids, but actually that is actually like everybody needs it. And sort of business owners need it to invite and get other people to invest in what they're doing. I also think as well, and you and I have spoken a lot, but there's also something about showing up for yourself every day, isn't it? Like being able to switch it on every day, even if you're like, oh, I don't want to do this today, or I'm too tired, or you can literally just flip a switch kind of thing, right?
Yes, 100%. And I think like that's where I know we had just talked late and you're like, how was your weekend? And I was like, there was a lot going on. And even that mindset of like, it's busy. It's like, people use words, right? Terms all the time in their life, and it causes a response, but it's not the external. It's what's happening in like inside, right? The conversation you're having has so much power in your life of how you show up. And it could have been like, oh, it's a crazy weekend. It's a Sunday. I'm like, but I choose to like say that differently and to look at that differently so that I show up as the best version I can. Doesn't mean it feels perfect every day, but it means the best version today that I can show up as. It gives me that power back in my life and in my day.
Yeah. And actually, and this isn't everybody's challenge. And I know that other people have more challenge because we've had a lot of practice, right? When people are like, oh, you make it look so easy. I'm like, I have had a lot of practice in front of a camera, like 20 years worth of practice. And the more practice you have, and actually, I feel like, and one of the things I notice is that, and I would describe it as a state thing. So it is Sunday. I was watching the Roland Garros final. It is in the fifth set. I was sitting on the sofa thinking, oh, I'm tired. It's the end of the weekend. But actually, it's the ability to switch, isn't it? And sort of come on and bring the energy that you need, which is so valuable. So I'm really, really excited to have you in the masterclass. I can't wait to hear you and watch you present about how you do this. But maybe you could just give us a little taster of exactly how do you get the clients you work with, whoever they are, to be able to show up for themselves.
So I absolutely, of course. And I think that creates some of the excitement, right? As well as like, how do we know what we're looking forward to? 'Cause I'm excited. I just want to touch on real quick. You are 100% right. I get told all the time, people are like, you make this so easy. Like when I talk to them and I give them a tool of how to interact with somebody, they're like, but for you, it's just easy. Okay. It was not always like that easy. It has taken practice and it's taken a lot of work. And more than that, you're right. It's the state and it's how I choose to be in the moment and how I like have taught myself that skill and like practiced. What's really great though, is once you've decided that you want to be better at this, it can be pretty quick. It can be a lot faster, I think, than people realize because you become more receptive to the information and the ability to influence not just other people, which is what we think we get into things for, is I'm going to influence other people so that I can get the result I want. And yet the only way to do that is if you first influence yourself. And so it's learning how to influence yourself so that you can then influence other people. And when you're doing it all for good and it's to get good results and to get like to keep putting good things in the world, like I feel like you become unstoppable. But it is not it does not just happen for people. I was not born with all of this. Like I learned.
Yeah, I think that's a really, so I'm going to add to that, because I think that's a
Yes.
really good point to make, is that no one was born with it. You weren't born with it. I wasn't born with it. Steve Jobs, when he presented first off, he was awful. So everybody is awful when they first start communicating with intention, right? And although I said that, I started 20, I remember literally the first time I stood in front of an audience and presented. I still remember that day. But as you're right, it doesn't have to take 20 years, right? There are things you can do that are super fast, which is what you're going to talk about. But it 100%, nobody starts communicating very well at all.
No. And I think and those are the stories that are fun to tell sometimes, right? Is like the first time. I mean, I can physically put myself back in the feelings if I want to. I don't choose to go back to those feelings, but I can recall them of how I felt in front of groups. I also know the first time I ever walked into a room and asked for a raise. Like I remember what that process felt like, and what that, and working through that, and not having somebody help me understand that, but just knowing I needed to do it. And I think that's the difference now, is having the right people in your corner, having somebody that you work with on purpose to give you the tools so that you can just do it faster.
Yeah.
I spent 18 years in this space, and I don't want somebody else to spend 18 years. I would like to give it to them faster than that,
Yeah.
because they can have what I didn't have then now quickly, and that would be great.
Yeah.
And that's a piece of what I'm going to come on and deliver in your masterclass, is just the concept that once you activate your once you have activated what your purpose and potential can be, you figure out what your purpose is, you activate your potential, right? That's a big thing for me, is we sometimes talk about it, but there is a specific, you said, I say back, flipping the switch. That's what activation is. It's how quickly can you just turn that on and articulate what that is. What is my potential? What am I gonna am I capable of? Do I know that I'm here for more? Do I want more? And when you know the answer is yes, we're going to talk about how you then move into aligning your communication so that it's clear and effective. It's not complicated, but it does have to be clear and effective. And there are certain ways that when you say things has a faster and more tangible result than when you say it other ways. And so just being able to say no, just say it like this. And people think sometimes that's inauthentic. It's not. It's not actually inauthentic. It's a tool. If I was gardening and you told me to pick up a shovel, or you told me to buy some gloves, I would not question you as well, maybe I'm not an authentic gardener because somebody had to tell me what tools to go get. That's not true.
Yeah.
I'm still putting my hands in, I'm doing the work, but you had to give me the tool. That's what we align. We align the right tools to get your message across clearly. And then we just accelerate from there. And so I talk about the activate, align, accelerate formula in order to just put you into literally any situation. When you talked about state, that's a process I go through in my head to do it quickly. And then what's really cool that I hadn't even thought about till right now, that I will, talk to you about throwing in as a bonus, is I have a very specific way, if you were to give a presentation, of helping you put that information in your head so that you can recall quickly. I use this. I am so confident in this formula, not only because I use it anytime I speak. It's why I talk about communicating on command, is because it is a very strategic way of quickly organizing information in your head, even if it's mid-meeting and you have to quickly reformulate. There's a very simple process that I can kind of show that I literally just taught it to a group of 8 and 9-year-olds. And I was I don't know if you guys know this, but you can put this in there, and those kids could recall that information 4 days later. They could speak about it, and it happened almost instantly. And so when we talk about there are tools, Laura, there are tools out there. If people were just here you go, you would be blown away by how easy it really can be to start communicating on command and to speak clearly with the intention that you want.
I,
I get very excited.
Yeah, I am as well. That's like a massive cliffhanger, isn't it? You're not going to tell us unless you come to the masterclass, or you got to come to the master.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm definitely going to be there to get the talk. But you're right. You're right. You're 100. And actually, I've been fortunate enough to be aware. It's almost awareness. It's not like, oh, it's an authentic. It's like having awareness that there are tools that enable you to influence and communicate. And I mean, I've been around it for years, but I'm always amazed at how many people aren't aware of it. And actually, once you really start tapping into it, you understand how important your words are, and not only the words you use, but how you say them and how you communicate them and the sequence you communicate in, them in. And I kind of feel like it's something that the world should be taught at school, but we're not. But once you really understand the power that you have, and I mean that in a positive way, once you understand that power that you have by using these tools and these frameworks, you really get it, don't you? And I think I kind of got it got it when sort of standing in front of a room of people and making them laugh, cry, inspire, just by your words and how you deliver them. So I'm like a massive advocate for this stuff, which is why you're going to be presenting at the masterclass. And I think I wish it was taught in schools, but it's not. But it's such an amazing toolbox to have in your pocket, because most people don't. Right? Most people, they have a little bit, but not really the sort of depth that you're going to go into. And I love the idea of doing it faster. I love the idea of doing everything faster, and you can really accelerate. And I love that framework that you have about sort of like, once you get it, my children can get it. They're like 7 and 8. Your children, my children, are a bit older than that. But that's when you really accelerate it, and you see the results, because people are reacting to you right there and then. Right now, again, we are both quite used to being on camera, communicating in this way, but I know a lot of people find that kind of live interaction quite challenging. What are the sort of, it'd be useful for people who are watching this, what are the sort of things that you notice in not the children, but the grown-ups? What are the what are some of the patterns that you see that really kind of hold people back and stop them getting that acceleration?
So very specifically, I can tell you it is just a story that they're telling themselves.
Okay.
It is the story that they're telling themselves in their head, and helping, like, it's a piece of the one-on-one, right? Is like, at some point, getting in with somebody and letting them help you kind of break that story down is like, I'm going to guess for almost everybody, somewhere in their life, something happened. Maybe it was in grade school or elementary. Maybe they were a bit older. Maybe it was the first time as an adult that they had. Sometimes people don't quite know when it was, but there was in your life where something happened and you did not get the response that you wanted, the reaction that you wanted. Or what I also find is they're like, they use words like, speaking is hard. It's comfortable. And they give them these words that are true. They feel those feelings. If we could just tweak them, if we could just get in there and manipulate that a little bit, and I mean that in like a good way, to give it a different pattern, it's just like interrupting it. And the reason, I think that's why I'm passionate about like also working in the kid space, not just like the adults. It works. That's how I know it works. Is because if I can interrupt it sooner in their life, they don't do this later. They just believe it, right? At some point as an adult, I was told something and I believed it. I don't like, and going back, like I also have the tools to help people go back and figure out when that was, so that they can kind of retell the story through their adult brain. But they've had experiences, and now I can hear people right now saying, no, but you don't understand.
Yeah.
But you don't understand that it happened more than once. It still happens. And I would be like, you are 100% right. It is still happening because somewhere in there you expect it to. So you're making it happen again and again and again. I just expect it to work out. And because of that, it tends to work out. Like, or I look at it that way. And what's great though is like, as much as I get people in my life who are like, no, it's not going to work for me like that. And it might not if we've decided as adults that we can never do something a different way. But that would be my challenge is if you've ever thought about a new career because there's a new possibility, if you've ever thought like, maybe I'll try this brand of something instead of that brand because like their advertising works better, or then you also have the ability to kind of play with the idea that this could also be something you get really good at. Like this could become easy for you as well, right? Like when you were when the first time you walked in or stepped into the role you might be in right now in your job, was it easy on day one? Did you know all the things that you needed to know? Were there ever moments that were a little uncomfortable and then you had to show up again at work the next day and like do the next thing? Like, okay, let's try it again. That didn't go the way I wanted it. Like it's the same process. So because we actually already understand the process, we just have to like shift. Oh, I could do it at work. I could do it over here. And with that little shift and then the right tools, like we can become gardeners of communication, or we can cook a new meal, whatever that is. It's really just going to be those like subtle shifts as we go that help people understand that they can make those changes as adults.
Yeah, I 100% believe that. And I know that when I was younger, maybe this is something people are thinking. I mean, I 100%, and it's the story. And there's a kind of like stuff you tell yourself logically, and then there's the stuff that kind of runs. I would describe it as running, subconsciously. I would describe it, but and when we're kids, we're kind of like, we just get up, we fall over, we get up, we keep running kind of thing. Maybe when we're adults and some of those have been more ingrained in the patterns in our head, it sometimes feels like it isn't so easy to get up and start running again. And what your system enables people to do is really gives them, it's almost like a reset button, isn't it? I would describe, a reset, restart, do things better this next time kind of thing.
Like you really can believe that it can be that easy, and it can be. Like it's okay. It's almost like, I think the idea of like believing in magic again in your life, because like when you're a kid, you don't question things that just feel like magic and like they just happen and you're like, wow, I had no idea, right? Like, oh, this is like the most wonderful thing in the world. And I got the experience yesterday. We had talked briefly about this. Like I got to witness birthday through the eyes of an 8-year-old, and how that could feel in their world. And it's like seeing, Christmas for the first time, or seeing fireworks through the eyes of like a child who is just captivated, as opposed to an adult who's like, well, you want to be careful because you might get too close and you might touch it. Yeah, okay, you might, but what if it's just beautiful also? And then we learn the things along the way that we like absolutely need to know, right? To be that successful. So for me, it's like, I believe in the magic of, if there's somebody out there who has a method, who figured out a faster way, and who can believe it's easy, I can too. Like I might not know how yet, but I could follow a system because I do it. Even if I don't think I do systems all the time in my life. I can learn new things, and like if somebody else is capable, I will find a way to make myself capable right? And so it's the idea of giving somebody like a process or a system of, it's not, you don't have to make it up. You're not like going to this like it's not so abstract, I guess, right? Like you have a system that you're going to deliver in your master that is brilliant. Like that, like I was like, I need that system because I don't know how to like craft that the way you guys do so wonderfully and so simply. And I was like, oh, it could be that easy. Like, thank you. Right. Like And I have a system of turning this on so that other people can then take on the new thing. And
Yeah.
those come together so effortlessly, but it's not abstract. These are tangible things that can be
Yeah.
done. There's steps you follow, they're processes you do so that you can be successful. And so it's not like we're just making stuff up either, which is like what I think some people think it is. They're like, how am I ever going to like know what to do or make that up? Like
Yeah.
you're not, you're just going to say, yes, that can work for me too. So I'm just going to do the thing.
I mean, I think because we're in the Offer Accelerator environment, and I'm very much a sort of it's all about results. It's all about how do you get the result the fastest. And you're right. And I think it's almost like for business things, that system seems more logical because there's like, I want that business outcome and there must be steps to get it. And part of what we train on in the masterclass and everything we do is about having the right frame for what you offer the world, right? And it's based on results as opposed to time, which is a natural place that lots of people come into business. They charge on their time. And I think the point you're making about the communication layers and side of things is it, and we've been saying it all along, haven't we? We've both been saying it all along, is that there is a system that enables you to be confident, to be able to rewrite my past, scribble out all the bits that don't support me, do more of what does. And I love the sort of fascination of being able to show up with the brain of a young person who hasn't had years of cynicism, like kind of let you, it's the baggage, isn't it? And I think that's what it's kind of like. We're programmed as humans to sort of store all the bad things. I don't know, unless we're kind of starting to work on ourselves more and using systems like what you have so that we can focus on what it is we want rather than what we're carrying from the past, I guess. Right?
100%. Yes. Like your brain is wired to do certain things in a certain way naturally. And unless you learn the tools to shift or adjust that, it will continue to do that. But you can serve you 100% of the time. And it's not an abstract thing when working with somebody who has the tools. And I
Yeah.
think that's what I learned from mentors that I work with is it's not like when you have the tools, you can then take charge of it and it will then serve you even as an adult, even as somebody who has stories and things that have happened in the past. Like I know what works. I've done it for myself. Like, my husband has done it. We work with it
Yeah.
on kids, spend time with other adults. Like we've seen, and you're 100% right. We've seen the results. And that's what people want at the end of the day. At the end
Yeah.
of the day, you want results faster,
Yeah.
spending less time doing it. But we're always like, well, I have to work a 40-hour week at this pay to get or what if you don't? That's
Yeah.
always my question. Like, how amazing would it be if you don't, in fact, have to do that? If you could, like, have an offer brilliantly written and knowing that you have a formula that gets results, and then, oh, by the way, I'll jump in and join them and help you have the like formula for how to continue to show up to do that on a regular basis. And your life could be, I think, it's everything I want it to be. Like,
Yeah.
I know there's other people out there because we've talked and met and we're both on the same page.
Yeah.
It can be all of those things quicker and get the results that you actually want.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds almost make believe, but actually it's a total reality. That's really
I
what we're
know. I think that's
saying.
hard for people. Is there like
Yeah.
there's no
I think,
like no they're I can hear you guys out there. You're like
wow.
arguing with me
Who's
right now.
watching this, you're like, are they really, is this here? I mean, if you did have doubts and you're watching this, the answer is to come to the masterclass, obviously, and hear more about it. But I would actually just, like, for me, the power I really got, that how powerful our brain is, like through my own personal experience. I've had lots of different situations, but one of them that kind of keeps playing in my mind whenever I have doubt that I can make a change, I think, is I flew around the world And when I was about 23, I got an extreme fear of flying, an extreme fear of flying, to the point where you couldn't take me to an airport. Even if I wasn't flying, I just found it very stressful. And if you got me on a plane, like for a short haul flight, I'd be there, like I'd be freaking out. Like awful. Everyone hated flying with me. If you speak to my friends and family, like anyone who knew me then, they're just like, oh my God, I'm not going anywhere with that. I'm not going anywhere with her, right?
Yes.
And that was all in my head, right? That's a story I was running in my head. And I had this invitation to go to the States, actually to the US on business. And I made a decision. It comes back to your decision. I made a decision then that either I was going to have to deal with this or I was never going to leave Europe, because ultimately I couldn't get out of Europe. And I remember thinking, I cannot explain the fear I felt. It was extreme fear. And I remember making a decision that there was absolutely no way I could ever spend the rest of my life in Europe only. The world was out there and I wanted to go and see places. And I knew if I didn't deal with it then, it would just get harder and harder. Anyway, very long story short, I obviously went and did the brain training and all of that stuff. And now I love flying. I love flying. In fact, I am fast asleep when we take off. I'm that relaxed because I'm like, they shut the door and I always think of having had that extreme fear. The only difference is the story that I was telling myself. The planes are the same, the petrol's the same, the air, the staff, the pilot, they're all the same. The only difference is what was going on in my brain. Literally, I couldn't go to an airport. I'd freak out. To kind of falling asleep on takeoff. And that really is the power of your brain, isn't it? And when you've got a system like yours and you can really very intentionally use this toolkit to be able to shift and tell yourself different stories to get the outcomes you want, the results that you want, you can pretty much do anything, can't you? Anytime, right?
Absolutely. And I think that there's so much power in that story, like that. And how many people have a story similar to that?
Everybody.
And
Yeah.
do the work. And I had my first, I've been in this space a really long time, leadership communication, like a really long time. But I had a story like not that long ago. Mine was insects. And I did similar work where I would have, and it's not like I love them now or anything, but I would have such an internal response.
Yeah.
That, like, it felt like what other people would call like panic, or like my heart would race, my body would tense. I would and it would take me a few minutes every time, like a cricket jumped somewhere near me, or I thought one jumped somewhere. It didn't even have to be real. I would make them up. And I did the work in there. And now I don't love them, but I don't panic. So I just go about my life in a very different way.
Yeah.
And that's one version, right? And I think for some people that might be the thing that that would make their life so much better. And for others, it's, can you have the conversation that feels challenging to you? Can you walk into an office and ask for the raise you need? Can you just build a new product and be willing to put it out there in the world and confidently hear no sometimes?
Yeah.
And then not get stopped in your tracks because somebody said no to me. Okay. And then how do we move through that as a process? Because that's a real life process that a lot of people also don't want to talk about. Like, they don't want to openly say oh, that is actually I'm excited about this idea, but what if my family doesn't agree with me? What if my partner's bored right away? What if the first time it doesn't work? Do I give up? Do I give it? Those are real thoughts, and those are real things that we also that's what we have the solution for. That's what we have results in.
Yeah.
And I think how do we navigate that?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, and I guess the reason why we've invited you to speak at the event this week and be part of this is because I know it's such a core part of being able to feel Like you can walk in with your amazing high ticket offer that we're going to show you how to design. But once you've designed it, and even when you've got the script of how to invite people to it, and you've got all the toolkits for that, this is what you need, right? You need to show up with belief in yourself, belief in your offer, belief in what you're doing and the value in the result. And this is where it really matters. And it's amazing how much selling is such an energetic transfer, isn't it? It really is. And I remember when I first kind of did some coaching, and I had a full-time job at the time, and I didn't need the sales, right? I didn't need to make the sales, but I wanted to, but I didn't need to. It wasn't going to be like, can I pay my mortgage or something? And I remember when I would literally, I think my close rate was something like 8 out of 10, because I think I must have been so, I mean, it was really high. I'd be like, am I going to take time out, and that people just wanted it, right? And I remember for a short time, until I realized what was going on, when I needed the deals, or I wanted the deals, and perhaps I was more desperate for the deals back then, I didn't close. I was like, I had an 8 out of 10 close rate. What's going on? And was I saying, was it a different offer? No. Was I saying a different thing? No. It was actually how I was saying it, how I was showing up. And that's really where you come in, isn't it?
Yeah. And it really is like, it's so subtle.
Yeah.
And it's the conversation in your head. And what you just said is that's what shifted. You went from like, this is fun, and
Yeah.
if it's the right thing, it'll great. And if not, great, to, but wait, I really want this. I really need this. And like, that's a different energy.
Yeah.
And it's okay that exists, but there's a way to bridge that. There's a way to still show up as believing that it's still fun, and you still will be okay if you
Yeah.
don't. And I think it's learning that. And again, like you had said it earlier, there's an awareness here. I think a lot of people are just not aware that this is happening under the surface. And they're like, why does this person seem to like get me, but this person doesn't? I do the same things, kind of, but maybe you don't. Like it's usually so subtle that they don't understand. Like people don't realize that there could be something, and it could be so simple.
Yeah.
So simple. A shift in your tone, it could be a shift in your body language and your posture. It could be like, there's so many things. And you're right, they don't teach it in school. I wish they did. So I teach it to younger kids as often as possible, because again, I like that. But it was actually, a lot of this was taken out of schools. There was a time when a lot of this was taught. Like, I mean, we're talking ancient. And then because it was so powerful, it was taken out of what was being shared openly. And when you're like, wait, why did they take it out? Like, what do you mean they took it out? People knew this? Like, yeah, they did. They knew this stuff. It's not something that was just made up recently. It's not something that only I know. There are lots of people that know this. And yet, until I was exposed, I didn't know it either. Until this was my attention, I didn't understand how it could be so, so subtle, like what it is coming through. But there's a beauty in like being made aware of it now. Like now I can do something with it. Now I can use that to help impact the world in an even better way. And sharing it with people who maybe they just want to sell, like maybe it's their first offer, or like, how do I show up if I'm not confident yet? If I don't
high
know?
ticket offer, which is
Your first
I
high
think,
ticket offer, and you're like, how do
like,
I say that number? Oh,
yeah,
can you say, like, do you know how, have you practiced saying the number? Like, do you know how to
yeah,
say it? And so it's like, there are some layers here, but the beauty is there's formulas and blueprints. There's plans. Like it's a system. I didn't make it up exactly, but I know it works because I follow a system. You have a system. Like that's what it comes back to, is it's not just like make it up as you go all the time, right? Like there are people that are doing this and it works. And if you follow the system, it will work for you too. And I think that's the beauty in believing that, right?
Yeah, I'm actually, my body, I'm literally rubbing my hands together because I'm like, ooh, I'm so excited to hear more about it. And I think we're going to leave it there on that cliffhanger.
Yes, we are.
So if you're watching this, we are going to be going into more detail and more depth. And as I said, my body language is like excited, which probably what I'm sort of projecting. But if you want to discover the secrets on how to go from low ticket to high ticket offers without that sleazy, salesy, selling uncomfortableness that you've just been describing, Michele, then join us at the Offer Accelerator Live Masterclass. All you got to do is go to www.offeracceleratorlive.com, reserve your place, and we will see you on Thursday. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, we'll be back for more. Thank you.